All right, so here it goes. As of recently, I have been wanting to expand my audience. I have been wanting to get myself out there a little bit more, but it's really, really scary. So, for all the people that do this, I commend you because talking into this thing and letting yourself be vulnerable, it's very strange. So, with that being said, though, I have been trying to figure out a way to reach the cannabis community, reach the law enforcement community, and I don't know how to do that other than to be myself. And I wanted to start talking to each side about my experiences on both sides because I think I have a pretty educated, well balanced viewpoint on all of these things. And I understand in this day and age that there's a lot of resentment against law enforcement. And how could I be a proponent of cannabis yet still be a proponent of law enforcement? I know it's weird, but it's possible, and I'm living proof of that. So, one of the things I wanted to discuss was on starting off on these. I'm going to call these little moments that I have here, and I talk into this thing. Medicated Moments, brought to you by AJ. So I know, sorry for the sarcasm there, but one of the things I wanted to discuss is how I started using cannabis, why I started using it, and what some of its benefits I've had. And this is to show that law enforcement community that we're not just all morons, and people who smoke cannabis aren't just stupid and all that stuff. So, one of the reasons why, and I talked about it a little bit on my previous podcast, I have a horrific back injury. I've had one failed surgery. I have to have surgery very soon. I'm in physical therapy. I was just recently in a car accident, so which has exacerbated my pain. Several years ago, I had a very, very serious back. It's the same back injury that's gotten worse, gotten better, gotten worse. I had surgery, reherniated again, so I'm still dealing with it. But I started using cannabis because when it initially popped, the discs initially herniated. I mean, I was sucking down, you know, a leave like it was going out of style. I was getting Toradol shots, and I was prescribed as many opioids as I wanted, and that just wasn't cutting it. So I contacted a family member who had been a pothead or a pothead for 25 years, and I asked him if he had some. And I was out of law enforcement by this time. I was in college, and I said I need something for the pain, and so he brought me a little nug of some cannabis back then, and I smoked it. And it had been 20 years since I had smoked. I didn't touch it in law enforcement or anything like that. So other than for arresting people for it. So I had almost immediately 50% relief, and this is at a point in my life when I was on the first floor of my house crying and screaming in pain every single day and didn't know what to do and couldn't think straight and couldn't move and anything like that. So that began my journey on medical cannabis. I started smoking it. Um, I had back surgery, and then 3 months after that, I immediately reherniated. So I just have been using cannabis for pain management all these years, and then now my back has gotten to the point again to where I have to have surgery here very soon. So again, it's just for management of my back pain. But some other really cool things happen with the use of cannabis when used responsibly. When used for medication, when used responsibly, is that it allows me to do this. It allows me to be open and vulnerable and to talk about my feelings and to talk about what's going on and to talk about myself and to create this. The birth of Blue to Green podcast was because if I wasn't a medical cannabis patient, if my piss poor life decisions had led me to where I am today, which I'm not unhappy about, it happened. It's part of my past, but I would still be a law enforcement officer, and I believe I was a fairly decent one. So I believe I was fair. Um, so it's still a love of mine, and using cannabis allows me to be open and honest and talk about stuff like this, and it allows me to do this. And that's one of the effects, one of the unintended side effects that I found from using cannabis is that it actually allowed me to be open and be vulnerable and to I'm not a creative person in any way, shape, or form. I don't know what I'm doing. Like this is all, I'm winging it here. But it allowed me to pursue these things and it allowed me to get out of myself and to be able to talk about stuff like this and not feel like a complete fool when doing this. So, and that's been my goal this entire time. And now recently I've just been trying to figure out how do I expand my audience? How do I talk to more people, get more people on board, hear more of my story, and share my story, and talk to more interesting people. And I got to get both sides. So I know it's weird. I get it. But cannabis allows me to do this, and it allows me to talk to you folks, and it allows me to be myself, and it allows me to relax a little bit and not take myself so seriously. So that's just one of the things that I wanted to share in this medicated moment, is to share that cannabis, the upsides of cannabis, the positives of cannabis. Again, when you're not just sitting around your house smoking weed all day long and not being a productive member of society, when using it responsibly, when using it, within reason and in a safe environment. I'm not going anywhere. Um, but even so, it's not like I'm medicated to the point of incoherency. Obviously, you're like, again, I've used responsibly and I'm in my home, but it allows me to relax enough to do this type of stuff. And it allows me to have clear thoughts. And that's another thing, too, I'll share in this medicated moment is that I was diagnosed with ADHD at 35 years old. I had no freaking clue. And then started using cannabis after I was diagnosed, and then recognized the fact that I could actually focus. And I got straight A's through. I went after law enforcement. I went to college. I went to community college first, and then I went on to NAU and got my bachelor's. And it allowed me to do good in school. I was a terrible student. I was a terrible student back in high school. And this allowed me to actually focus and stay concentrated on, the task at hand and the schoolwork, except for math. Didn't do so good in math. That was not a good mix. But it allows me to focus a little bit better. It allows me to actually arrange my thoughts in a way that, makes sense to me. And again, it's one of these things where I didn't find this out till I was 35 years old that I had ADHD. So I'm going to commit to putting myself more out there on social media, expanding my audience, and I'm going to try to do 3 of these a week. Just short little videos where I can get a message out there, tell someone my story. Maybe it helps one person, and that's all I really care about. So hit me up. Let me know. Take care.